Welcome to the final Writers and Readers series of the 2018 Rosemont Writers Retreat. So happy to see you all here. I know you're all at least as exhausted as I am, if not more, so thank you for coming and being all bright and shiny. Those who are late will be chastised publicly and humiliated, so there you go. I am so happy to have our guest today, Jillian Sullivan. She taught with us last year. She comes all the way from New Zealand, tiny little village, sort of the opposite of Philadelphia. So I'm happy to have you come here. Jillian Sullivan lives and writes in the Ida Valley on the South Island of New Zealand. She's published novels, collections of short stories, poetry, creative nonfiction, and memoir. She is a Master of Creative Writing from Massey University and teaches writing in New Zealand and America each year. Her awards include the Highlights Fiction Award for America and the Kathleen Groton Prize and the Takahi Prize for Poetry in New Zealand. Her latest book, the memoir Away Home, tells the story of building a new life and a straw bale home in central Otago. Please welcome Jillian Sullivan. I'm curious, perhaps what New Zealanders are thinking about the political situation in the United States, and maybe not just in the United States, but also like all over Europe. I don't know how much of this neoconservative movement has reached New Zealand. Maybe it has, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern in New Zealand, and we had a protest march organised for this weekend for the children, being locked up on the borders. So we are watching what's happening here, and I think even on Facebook last night there was lots of things. Please write to the US ambassador in New Zealand, and
oh wow,
yeah.
So the news is getting all the way down there. That's good.
Yeah.
And you have a woman prime minister. I don't know if is it the first woman prime minister in New Zealand?
She's our third.
Very progressive.
Because we got the vote first in the world.
Oh, there you go.
A woman did.
That.
Yeah.
Wow. Long before us, I guess. 1920. It hasn't even been 100 years in the United States. People forget that.
Okay. I think we're like 120 or something. Yeah. So, yeah, we've got the youngest Prime Minister. She's 37.
Wow.
And she had a baby 2 days ago.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So, New Zealand is a really interesting culture because it's primarily like a rural country. People are very active. I know you lead a very active life. So much so that you built your own house. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. And I'm curious, you ended up writing a memoir about it. So what was it about the experience of building your own house and doing that with your family that sort of inspired you to write a book about it?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I always believed that from about 18 that people should be able to build their own houses. But I did grow up in the hippie culture, and the Whole Earth catalogue, but I just thought we used to build our own houses, and so I always wanted to, but I didn't ever have. I got married and had kids, and I didn't have husbands that were really into building our own house out of mud. It was just something I always wanted. So when I was on my own and 55, I thought, now's my chance. Yeah, and I was pretty hopeless. Like, I couldn't hold a drill. There was nothing I could do. But my son-in-law built it with me, and he just trained me.
Nice.
And, yeah, so I wanted to inspire anybody that they could do anything. Yeah.
It's a beautiful book, and I was kind of envious. I mean, it's just such a different kind of life. I mean, this morning I was talking about this poetry class I took in the spring, and one of our assignments was a pastoral, and I just had such a hard time with that. And it seems like maybe that sort of, because you have more connection to where you live and the earth, and not to sound too I don't know, new agey or whatever, maybe you wouldn't have as many problems as someone who lives in the city and is like, has this, you know, urban existence.
Well, I think it all comes down to community, and so because you can be isolated and depressed. I mean, we have farmers that kill themselves. I mean, you know, just living in the land doesn't protect you. But I think when you live in small places, you can. Maybe it's easy to become a community. So we have 29 people in the village, and some of the people, you know, they wouldn't be your friends normally.
Right.
And there's all sorts. There's truck drivers and a poet laureate,
Wow.
farmers. But we all have to get together to run the village. Like we all take turns cleaning the toilet, the public toilet, and mowing the lawns. And so we have meetings, and the village is bigger than all of us. And so even the ones that, you know, you wouldn't normally get to know, you all work together.
It sounds almost like a commune in a way, but not. I mean,
yeah, like a commune, but Barry owns 20,000 hectares, and the truck drivers got a little quarter acre, and
gotcha.
so yeah.
But yes, so everybody, it's a.
But the village, the
real
community
yeah.
is what brings everyone together.
So what kind of environment is that to write in? Is it good, or is everybody in your business?
No, everyone's pretty busy.
Okay.
And the people like me who have moved there are self-employed, so they're writers as well, or editors, and yeah, everyone's just busy doing their thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you've also traveled a lot, and you've lived in different places in New Zealand, and I think one of your daughters lives in Australia. Is that right?
Yeah.
So do you have a place besides your home, or maybe it is your home, that you find really inspiring?
Well, I've just recently had a fellowship to write about place, and I said that I would climb every mountain and hill in my area and follow the river up to its source in the mountains. So I've seen some amazing places. But one was this one called the Fraser Basin, where an old gold mining area was. And it's hard to believe that people lived there. I think the mean temperature over a whole year is 0. Yeah, and that's even worse than your 0.
Yeah,
I think.
Celsius, yeah, that's like
Yeah.
20 below or something. Yeah.
But it's so pure up there, and they had little tiny streams that were like the purest crystal water just coming out of green moss with flowers. It's like Heidi in the mountains.
Wow, but cold.
Yeah. There was snow as well, and it was midsummer. So
Wow. Wow.
I called it Befriending the Echoes. I used to bend sprite-like but ashamed into hiding. Styled my hair Susie Sue ultramarine, blue strands stretching wild into the light. But now I hold the hand of confidence, wear my hair simple, soft, long cascades of comeliness in silken locks of reddish blonde. I used to wander through greenery as if it was a summing up of nature. Now I know to look for the ridge of fine thorn on a raspberry leaf. I used to wear uncomfortable shoes. Now I care for my feet. I protect them. I think about all the places they've taken me, carrying the weight of my body and the things I've accumulated over almost 52 years. I used to think that once I turned 21, all my emotions would exist in predictable repetition. But now I've lived beyond those words, in constant flux of feelings and never just one. I used to eat meat, now I beat cheats. I used to fear the silent solitude of an empty house as afternoon died into dusk. I have promised to fill the emptiness with my voice, befriend the echoes in the walls. I used to avoid driving on the highway for fear I would hit another car speeding in a lane. Now I am that person, driving the car, speeding in the lane.
Excellent.
That's our lovely class. Okay, I'll read this 2 pages. It's called A Privileged Life, and it was published in Corpus, which is intersection of medicine and life. It's an online journal, and anyone can send into it. One of the jobs which I've worked in the last 3 years to support my life as a writer was working as a nurse aide, like a caregiver at a local hospital. And so I wrote about that. When the job seeker representative asked me what qualifications I had for a job, I told her I had a master's degree. Don't put anything highfalutin like that on your job sheet, she told me. You're only going to end up a cleaner. I think of that sometimes when I'm scrubbing toilets in the middle of the night and my job is hospital aide in a small country hospital. And if I ever needed a reminder that this is a privileged job, I think of the young woman I was on shift with one night telling me in the kitchen, one night my friends hassled me. They said, you have to clean up shit. And they laughed at me. And I said, yes, I do, because those people need someone to help them. And then they went quiet and they haven't hassled me since. So that's what we do. We do things for people when they can't do it for themselves anymore. We shift a pillow under their head to help them sleep. We wheel them to the toilet when they can't walk anymore. And we do whatever needs to be done. We take their teeth out and clean them and put them back in the morning. We feed them when they can't remember what a spoon is for. When they're dying, we make them whatever they feel like eating, even if it's custard for days in a row or poached eggs till they can't swallow anymore. We shave them, wipe their faces, pluck their chins, put their lipstick on. We remember how they like their tea and which socks are theirs. We remember who they were when they first came and could tell us stories of the Chinese miner who lived in a stone hut on the slopes of the family farm and cooked the farmhands dinner one snowy day when they were mustering, and who threw pieces of gold out to children on the streets of Arrowtown. We remember they had a little brown and white dog they loved, or a Palomino quarter horse. They didn't always dribble. On the walls behind their beds are photos of their farms, the tussock and their beloved dogs. There are wedding photos, grandchildren photos. And if a man may seem odd, alone, without history, then that is the day he may suddenly tell you it's the date his wife died 10 years before and how much he misses her. What you begin to understand is that it is all loss ahead of you. Loss of your home, of your land, loss of your partner, loss of the most faithful dog you ever owned, loss of your garden, your favourite tree, loss of your memory, perhaps, of all these things. We ask them about their lives, or we remind them. We play Brahms' Hungarian dances to a woman who once taught music, and she smiles. We tell another how beautiful her fingers are, and she tells us, I played the violin. It's the sort of job you do when you haven't got many options, when you didn't further your education, or you did and couldn't get a job, or you chose to live somewhere where there are no jobs. You girls should get paid $1,000 a week for what you have to do, one woman said as I cleaned her. We get paid just over the minimum wage. We get paid for changing briefs, cleaning toilets, putting Steradint on teeth, and pulling socks on misshapen feet. Being kind and remembering is the extra option. Being kind is what reminds you of your humanness, your shared trajectory. I didn't think my life would come to this, one man said as I guided him to the toilet. I thought I would just drop dead of a heart attack. And sometimes they do, right in our arms. But the ones that don't are the ones we look out for, thinking of our own fathers or mothers living far away, thinking of what could be up ahead for each of us. This is called Straits. I wrote it for my daughter. It's 7:29 a.m., 25 hours since you rang to say contractions were 5 minutes apart. All day I kept a candle glowing by your photo, and now dawn, sun through layered clouds, a tui in the sycamore. When my son Nick sailed broken-masted into the bottlenecked Malacca Strait, his last call for 4 long days, a force 5 gale approaching. How those of us who wait at home would take the waves that thud and thud against the hull, risk lightning, torrential rain, the dark unknown ship that's shadowing our wake, if only those we long for pass safely through. So that's that one. When I was in a band, we always had a gig sheet, you know. So that's why I had to write myself a gig sheet. Oh, that's the writers. Okay, here's my gig sheet. Okay. Milking. I'll read in light of recent events. And I wrote this after one of the big shootings. Okay. And a Catholic, the New Zealand Catholic magazine is publishing this. Oh, they've just published it. And they're putting it on posters for all the Catholic schools.
Wow.
In New Zealand. So I'm really...
amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's called In Light of Recent Events. We are not alone. At the level of atoms, we are trees, grass, sky, we are far planets. We are blood and bone and dirt, we arise from this earth. May the rivers pray for us in rushing bouldery stanzas. May the mountains implore for us, with peaks and flanks their thrashing grasses. Scree slopes sighing, sandstone, grey-wacky, limestone, schist. May the trees sing out for us from the skins of leaves and bark. May the earth under our feet press into us, for this is how we end, friable, enriched. Between stratus, cumulus and loam, we hold our space. Let it be, as Jefferson said, for life, liberty, for happiness, not for gain. May the wind remind us we do not own the open places. May the rain bless us in mist, with thrumming downpours, for we are the ones who need grace. We have forgotten when and why we came, and what it is we live for. This poem's called Milking. Sometimes when I milk the goat early morning, her freckled, sagging udder familiar in my fingers, clean milk foaming in the bowl, I do not know how long I can keep believing in the sanctity of marriage. I carry milk to the daunted kitchen with the cupboard nailed shut against the rats, where honeysuckle seeps through wallboards and in winter the sun doesn't shine. Sometimes I sneak to the edge of a ruined life and look down at how far I will fall until the children cry for their breakfast, warm milk on warm oats. If there was someone else, but there is only the idea of someone else, who takes a turn at the plashing bowl on the rickety milk stand, or bends beside me in the rows of silver beet, sharing the sun and the spade. And in the evening, when he comes home, his arms tell me I belong here, and how sweet the goat's breath when she turns her whiskered face to my own face, laid on her warm white flank. She gives up her milk for us, as I could give up everything for the small ones who didn't ask to be here. If there was a stream, I would take the path beside it. I would listen for that moment when the water falls from the rock, that hallowed space before everything is over. Okay, so this is called Somewhere in the City. The train shuffles into the station. I put my book down and stand up, not knowing if I chose the right track. On Featherston Street, the sky is full of rain. The men have short-cropped hair, long black coats, black shoes. They carry briefcases. I don't know what jobs they do or how they live their lives. I think of his woolen hat, his swan dry, his boots, how he goes out in the snow, cuts wood before the storm. When I walk behind the black-coated men, I am bereft. Which way to go? Tall buildings have no signs on them, no cafes, just people walking into the heart of the city. I recite Buddhist phrases to myself. Suffering comes from trying to make permanent that which is impermanent. I too will die. May I cease grasping after permanence and live each moment fully with bright, non-clinging awareness. At a street light, I look across the bare branches of trees, water beaded on twigs. I try to view the trees brightly, no memories of snow. I feel the soft air, the lack of wind, the almost warmth. Then I go into a lotto shop and buy a ticket. Tonight at the gallery opening, I will stand with my wine and smile, say, yes, I go to university now. And this is how I go, on trains I need to study, on streets of unknown men. But first, here in the city, I will grapple with the photocopier. Once I have found the library, I will be in that room with writers, and we will talk till shadows take the blossom tree and leave us in the dark. Yeah, so I called it Silk. In a hoarfrost, trees that were bare bloom again, growing white coats that deepen each morning sun doesn't shine. Here, the fog tilts over Blackstone Hill, rides over us from the south. The grasses too, dressed in white, leaning under the weight. Another year older. Walking to the shop, early morning, empty street, the neighbour's trees, works of art in a white exhibition titled Temporary. We hope so. There are cards and gifts, a questioning letter from Wins, it's like benefit thing. Re my accommodation supplement and status, single, mortgage, this much, income, this much, costs per year, a tidy sum. Let us know if anything has changed. I no longer have a job. Work comes in unexpectedly, sporadically. Sometimes I imagine a spider leaping, the trail of silk behind her, such faith she will bridge that gap. There are many faces to survival, gifts, for instance, like warm hugs on a hoarfrost day, something I can do that is needed elsewhere. The mystery of a Toyota Corolla keeping on going. There's no direct fashion in a life like this, a spider sailing. It's like the sun coming up in different places. The magic is in knowing that it rises. It rises. On the way to the gate in the schist stone wall, shafts of light touch elderberry, crabapple, rose. The air stings. Happy 60th birthday, 61st. And I'll do a building poem for my last poem. So I built the house with Sam, and he didn't ever let me get away with anything. So I remember one day I was, you had to be working 3 meters high on beams over a concrete floor, and I said, Sam, I'm not happy working up at this height. And he said, well, you better get happy. And
What a way to talk to your mother.
I know. And he said, just walk those beams like there's no tomorrow. No, but I'm thinking, that's the point, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so this is Summer with a Ladder for Sam. I learned to climb the ladder hands-free, up with the drill, the hammer, the skill saw, sun like lava on my thighs and knees. I am enamored with hammering. It beats thinking, what if? Better to drive a nail straight. That takes care of almost everything. I do whatever it takes each day to get up. Blackstone Hill, early morning gold, the radio on, the rungs under my feet. I don't presume height blocks sorrow or is safe, yet we are always all right, walking those beams like there's no tomorrow.
Thank you, Joanne.